our world is run by the patterns formed within people when they were kids. And why does this become a challenge? When I was a kid, someone told me that I was really clumsy. And my mind made up this story that, okay, so that means I can't do any sports because I'm clumsy. That became my identity. Until I turned 40 and I realized it wasn't true. So I started surfing, I started snowboarding, and I can now consider myself at least an intermediate surfer. So the things we pick up as children are not true, they're just interpretations. I visited a mastermind in Phoenix, and during lunch, I was sitting next to this guy. He has 1 million subscribers on YouTube, he has thousands of followers on Instagram, and he's at least 15 years younger than me, and really good looking. And as we're sitting there, he was interested in my work, how I work with people and help them change. And I love talking about my work, so I was smiling, and he was asking questions. We're having this fantastic conversation. And then lunch comes to an end, and I can tell that there's something bothering him. And he's like, ooh, I don't really know how to put this. And I'm like, just go ahead, you can say whatever, this is a safe environment. And then he leans over and he says, you have a lot of things stuck in your teeth. I'm here today because I am so frustrated with people not being able to change. Who here has ever set a goal, decided on a New Year's resolution, tried to change a new habit only to find yourself stuck in the old way of doing it after a few weeks? Raise your hands. And who here would like to know how you can make new habits stick? Well, when we work with our mind instead of using willpower, everything becomes possible. We can change in an effortless manner if we really want to. And this is the topic of my upcoming book, which is coming out after the summer, some point. You see, we can change without willpower when we work with our mind. And how do we do that? Peter, entrepreneur, 49 years old, he came to see me. He was so tired of his life. He was burnt out. He was stressed all the time. He was unhealthy, and he just wanted to get back into a healthy body. He was a high achiever. At least he worked hard all the time. He worked really late every night. He didn't get enough sleep. He was eating unhealthy. He didn't exercise, although his basement was full of all the newest gym equipment. And when he was being really honest with himself, he wasn't getting the results that he wanted to in his business. I'm a performance coach, and traditionally in performance coaching, we set a goal and then we make a plan in order to move towards the goal. But that doesn't work, because it relies on willpower. And our habits are subconsciously driven. Everything you do, everything you think, all your emotions are driven by the patterns in your subconscious. So then it makes sense that changing habits, in order to change habits, we need to work with the subconscious, not the conscious mind. So what's really up with all these habits in our subconscious, and why are they so difficult to change if you don't have the right tools? First of all, we have to understand that these patterns were shaped years ago when we were still kids. You know, children come into this world as clean slates. They know nothing, and their job is to learn about the world so that they can survive as adults. The real challenge with this is the stuff that kids learn when they're kids gets stored as patterns in their subconscious, which run everything. It's actually running the whole world. Our world is run by the patterns formed within people when they were kids. And why does this become a challenge? It becomes a challenge because children who don't really understand a lot, they are trying to learn about the world. They are interpreting the world around them based on a mind that doesn't understand anything. We adults, we can connect the dots. Children can't. Children are uncritical. If you say that there's something called Santa Claus, they believe you. Kids take everything literal. When I was a kid, someone told me that I was really clumsy. And my mind made up this story that, okay, so that means I can't do any sports because I'm clumsy. That became my identity. Until I turned 40 and I realized it wasn't true. So I started surfing, I started snowboarding, and I can now consider myself at least an intermediate surfer. So the things we pick up as children are not true, they're just interpretations. And it gets even more challenging because we all human beings, view the world with a negative lens. Because our brains are so preoccupied with keeping us safe, we are scanning for danger. We're scanning for everything which is negative, also children. So they interpret the world from this perspective. And whatever the child's mind interprets gets stored as patterns in their subconscious. And because our brain is so preoccupied with keeping us safe, it is constantly, every second of your day, moving you away from danger and towards safety. Well, your brain doesn't always know what is safe and what is dangerous, so it puts everything new into the dangerous category, and everything old, which is familiar, all the old patterns, goes into the safe category. And your brain does everything it can in order to make you stick to whatever is safe and familiar, the old patterns, even though they make you feel horrible, because new is potentially dangerous. So when Peter came to see me, I knew that we had to dig into his unconscious beliefs about himself. And it turned out he had grown up with a mentally ill mom, an alcoholic dad who left when he was 5 years old. His needs were never met. He was left alone most of the time. When his parents promised that they would do something fun, they never kept up the promise. Of course, his mind had to create a lot of beliefs about this. So some of the beliefs we uncovered was, number one, I can't have what I want. He was an entrepreneur. He was building a business. Whenever he got close to a business breakthrough, his unconscious mind would sabotage, would stop him, because that was unsafe. The other belief we uncovered, life is hard, life is stressful. That was his childhood. And that was what was safe for his mind. This led him to always postpone until the last minute so that he would be stuck in that familiar sensation of stress. It led him to fill up his to-do lists. He had all the books on time management, productivity. He knew what to do. Still, his mind was pushing him back to what was safe, which was living in stress. Too much to do, stuck in the hamster wheel, scattered focus, too little energy. The third belief we uncovered was taking care of myself and my own needs is selfish. Of course, that was his childhood. That means all the new gym equipment he had in his basement was unsafe for his mind. He didn't need more discipline or willpower in order to get back in shape. He just needed to reprogram all of those old patterns. So that's what we did. And Peter started taking care of himself. He started going to bed, working less, getting in shape, eating healthy, and after a couple of years, he even 10x'd his business. So it's never about discipline. It is about working with your mind. It's not about willpower. It's about working with your mind. Susan came to see me, and she said, "Oh, Anniken, I really need your help. I'm having such a problem, I can't keep my promise to myself." And I said, "Okay, tell me what's going on." And she said, "You know what? I promised myself I'm going to go to the gym in the morning, and I just end up staying at home, scrolling and drinking coffee, and then I don't have time to go to the gym." And I said, "Okay. And how do you react? What happens? What do you think of yourself?" "Oh, I feel horrible. I start criticizing myself. I feel like a failure." And we do that if we don't know better. So first of all, I had to explain to Susan how the mind was trying to keep her safe, because the new habit of going to the gym was unsafe for her mind. Second of all, what happens when we criticize ourselves? What are we saying in between the lines when we criticize ourselves? We're saying, "I'm not valuable." And what is one of the most dangerous things for our mind? It is if we're not valuable, right? Because we know that we evolved in a time where we were depending on our tribe. So our brain knows that to be part of the tribe. And it thinks that if we're not valuable, we might get kicked out. So whenever we're criticizing ourselves, in between the lines, we're saying that I'm not the V word. I'm not going to use it anymore because words really affect us. So in between the lines, we're really saying, I am in great danger. Stress mode needs to go on. And what happens? This dangerous situation is connected to the new habit that you're trying to start. So in Susan's case, she had to learn to create safety around that new habit. And she had to learn to work on the relationship to herself. Treat herself with kindness and respect. And reprogram those old patterns that were creating that negative inner dialogue in the first place. So it is never about willpower. It's about mind power. Working with our subconscious and working with our minds, everything becomes possible. And this day in Phoenix, when the guy told me I had lots of things in between my teeth, I went to the bathroom and yes, there were at least 5 huge black seeds stuck in my teeth from a salad I had eaten. And I found a toothbrush, I cleaned my teeth, and I was laughing, and I was happy, and I was laughing and happy because I knew that the old version of me would have hit myself in the head, would have criticized myself, would have run this movie over and over and over again. And I smiled because I knew that was the older version of me. And I know that I'm valuable, and so are you. Thank you.